Question one, I get the sense if I don't play small, I'll be fired. What should I do? So, cautionary thing, I was fired for not playing small. So, take my advice in the way that you want to, but I have zero, zero, zero regrets over it. So, let's do what we always do, right? We're going to break down how our nervous system is triggered by our socialization and then these predictable behaviors that happen and what we can do about it. So let's start with what's going on in our nervous system. So essentially this question is, should I go find a bigger room, right? Or is it wrong of me to feel like I'm playing small, right? Like there's some amount of self-doubt in this question that wants some sort of validation. But what's going on in your nervous system is a freeze response where you've got indecision that's triggered by a fear of making the wrong choice, right? By leaving or by whatever it is. But that's the fear that's got you in the indecisive thing of what should I do? You're worried that future you will feel regret or shame. Like if I get too big for my britches and I think I need a bigger room, and then it turns out I was just overly confident, right? There's a little bit of that in there. But part of it is you already know the right answer. It just seems scary or hard. And so you tell yourself you're not sure. And the thing is that it gets harder and harder the more that you progress in your career to play small, because your self-assuredness, right? Your self-confidence that comes from within, that's not coming from other people, it grows and grows as you spend more time and gain more expertise, right? And then you realize that it's not you, it's them. But if it was them, it would feel easier. All right, so what's going on in our socialization that's triggering the indecisiveness and the fear and the anxiety around this? So we always talk about like our validation as people socialized as women comes from external sources. And so we're trying to get our validation cookies, but we haven't yet built the skill. Certainly the that work with me, we spend a lot of time building the skill of looking inward for the answer. Am I capable? Am I worthy? Am I valuable? Am I enough? But that's not something that we're socialized to have in the same way that men are. And so the self-doubt is also by design, right? There's always a new product or a new thing of how we're doing it wrong. We need this cream. We need a yoga body. We need to know our love language so we can be blah, 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 right? Like there's always something that we're doing wrong. And so self-doubt is by design. Of course, we're going to doubt ourselves. And then within female social groups, humbleness is valued over confidence. And so there's a moment in here where you might be having an idea of like, who the hell do I think I am? Like thinking that I'm too big for this room, right? That I've grown past this role or, this particular manager or whatever it is. Like, who do I think I am, right? Because humbleness is valued over confidence, it can feel really dangerous to get overly confident. And then finally, there's always that fear, particularly if you're the first or you're the only, but there's always that fear in whatever marginalized identities that you're living within that we might not get a second chance. And the more marginalized identities that you're bringing into the workplace with you, the more that fear is heightened, right? That I might not, if I walk away from this and I think I'm too good for it and blah, 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 right? And so you could see how all of those things can kind of come together and make you really not sure, or at least believe that you're not sure that it's time to move on. And so what we end up doing is trying to talk ourselves into saying. So of course we start questioning ourselves more than we're questioning the situation, right? Because we're not socialized to trust ourselves, and self-doubt is by design, right? So of course we're going to question ourselves more than we're questioning the situation itself, right? Of course we're going to be worried about misstepping because we might not get another opportunity if we throw this one away. And of course, we think that there's something that we can change about ourselves that will improve the situation because we're socialized that we're responsible for other people's comfort. And that can sort of get twisted in our minds to believe that we can control how other people see us and how other people feel about us. All of those things, all of that makes total sense. Of course, we're going to not be sure what we should do next when we kind of take all of these elements into consideration. So What happens though is that we twist and contort ourselves. We're trying to pretzel ourselves into a shape that will fit a situation that we've outgrown. And what happens when you do that is you're constantly on unstable ground because you're trying to be someone that you're not. You're trying to like stay in a small, like certainly in my situation, I was trying to stay small and non-threatening because I thought I needed to stay in this job for a year. And so just trying to like dull my shine as much as possible to not bring everything that I had to offer, which was a lot, and just trying to like make myself smaller and smaller and smaller in the hopes that eventually I could just make it a year in this job. We also look for things that we can change about ourselves rather than trust that it's them and focus energy on changing the situation. And so we focus that and we turn that inward and we start picking ourselves apart and we start thinking, oh, well, if I would just kept my mouth shut there, or if I, just let them make that mistake, or if I hadn't added in my brilliance, then maybe I wouldn't have been threatening and now they wouldn't be mad at me and undermining me and whatever else was going on. But what happens is when we're focused on trying to change ourselves and not trying to change, like we don't have the energy to try to change the situation. If we can take that energy and focus on changing the situation, either like, first I'm going to figure out, is this room too small for me? And then if so, what do I want to do about it? Right? Instead of thinking there's something about you that you can twist and contort and change to get small or like appropriate enough that you like a fragile ego is not going to be threatened by you. And so ultimately we stay too long where we're expected to dull our shine and we doubt ourselves even more because we're almost gaslighting ourselves by staying in this situation. So what I will say is you do know what you want to do. The person who asked this question, you know what you want to do. You just don't like how hard it's going to be. But we can also break it down of like, it's just a series of steps to get you into a room that is big enough and bright enough and is not threatened by your shine. So here's the tips that I suggest as you're like trying to make this decision. If you knew you would make, and some coaches say the right decision no matter what, but I know that most of the folks in my community are perfectionists. So I like to switch it. If you knew you would make the wrong decision no matter what you did, what would you do? Like if you knew it wasn't going to work out no matter what would you do? And you can try it the other way too. If you knew that no matter what you chose, it would be great, what would you do? But I think with perfectionists, this is like, oh my God, because otherwise you're trying to make the most right decision, right? But just think about that in this context. If you knew you would be fine either way, if you knew it was going to suck either way, like that's a really quick way of understanding what you really want and like getting that part of you to speak up that's a little bit scared and in the back corner, like, we could do better, right? But who's just nervous to speak up. Also, you can ask, what does the future version of you think? What does you in 5 years think? What does you in 20 years think? Right? Like me being several years out of the situation that I was in, is like, oh, I can't believe I even tried to make myself. Like there's no amount of small I could have made myself that situation would have worked out ever. But I really wish I would have asked me, who was like super happy in my career, right? And I didn't know this is where I was headed at the time, but like, if you have an idea of where you're going, or at least what you want it to be like, right? Like my dream scenario is exactly the one that I have right now. Like I'm doing something that feels really meaningful to me, that I never have to make myself smaller or dull my sparkle or hold myself back in any way. Like there's no one that's like threatened by me, right? Like this is all exactly where I would want to be. And me, my advice to her is, girl, just go. Like it's not that serious. Your reasons for staying, they're not very good reasons with time, right? So, and then there's a great book that I think will really help you tap into like the kind of energy that you need in this moment. It's called Professional Troublemaker by Lovey Ajayi Jones. And get the audio. I always say get the audiobook because I always listen to audiobooks, but like she reads it herself. I have never felt so gassed up and so powerful listening to just a book before. So I really, really recommend that one. This is the energy that you need, and having her in your ear giving you that energy, I think would be the thing that you need to really figure out what you want to do next.